why do you think retail with water gardening is so important?
I think people need to see, they need to see it and feel it, right? They want a place to go, and we can't have pond tours every day of the week, right? So here's the Lyle location that has 8 different water features that they can see, feel, and touch anytime they want to. They can see the fish, they can hand feed the fish, they can see their kids interact with it.
When you go into a traditional retailer that does sell water gardening, what's the biggest thing that frustrates you guys about seeing that?
Well, it's not a lifestyle, you know. It's just, it looks like products on a shelf, you know, and it's just the way it's compartmentalized and everything. It has no feeling. Versus, you know, something like this, you know, where you're sitting outside, you're relaxing, you're feeding the fish, and you're just creating this whole experience for someone to get into, and they could just kind of walk around. You have nice little seating areas, as well as it kind of leads them through a whole story. You know, we have all the different stuff from the fountains, the small ponds, to the full blown out massive one, and the pondless waterfalls, and a little bit of a mixture, but it's telling a whole story.
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole different philosophy.
I think it's also our water features. You know, some of the water gardening stores that you see around the country, their demo ponds are enormous. Like, this is not a pond you would want to put as your demo pond at a water gardening store. It's a little big. Yeah. So we have an 8x11, you know, that pond you built at the Lyle store gets us more consultations than any other one water feature in all the other stores. Because it's to scale with people's, not space, but I think their mind.
You know, Brian, one of the things that I think is great about you is you think big picture long term, you know, and when you told me that you don't mind building a customer a small water feature in year 1 because you know once they start living with it and enjoying it, that's going to be a customer that upgrades in year 2 or 3 or 4 to a bigger one, but it's staying in touch with those customers. And I think so many times somebody comes in and tries to sell a job to somebody that it takes up their whole budget.
I used to be there.
Yeah.
You know, when I walk into a backyard, I see everything, right? The pond needs to be this big, they need the patio this big, they need their decks this big, they need landscaping and lighting and all this stuff. And,
yeah, but it scares the customer,
though. It scares the hell out of them, you know? They're terrible. They see all that, like, what are you talking about? And we may have 2% of our customers that can visualize the way we can, right? And I would imagine it's that way across the country. Even with drawings and other things done, they still have no idea what the heck you're gonna do in their backyard. What I get excited about is when we do these smaller features, or a large feature, you know they're gonna eventually upgrade. Greg, the one thing you do different with your big pond at your house is
make it
bigger, right? It just doesn't matter what size you start with, but you wanna make it bigger. The difference is when you invest $5,000 into your first time water feature compared to maybe $25,000 into your first time water feature, it's a whole lot easier 2 years, 3 years later to say, hey, let's make this bigger. Right. If you invested $25,000 your first time around, done. That's it.
I guess the biggest thing that contractors and retailers need to understand is water features are the only form of landscaping that can't stand alone.
Yeah.
If you do a hardscape or a softscape, you can do your plants to be done, you can do your hardscaping to be done. But when you do a water feature, you need hardscaping and softscaping to complete it, and because of the fact that it's the only form of landscaping that sucks people outside like a vacuum cleaner and puts them in their yard, and they're going to be spending time in their yard, they're going to be investing more in their property, and that's what we want people to do. We want them to live the lifestyle. If we could get all of our customers living the lifestyle, it's going to be great for all the business, for the landscaping, the hardscaping, the softscaping, the lighting, and they're going to add it over time.
It's so important, and you see it all the time. You know, there's not a water feature we've put in the world that doesn't have a patio, doesn't have a deck, doesn't have landscaping and everything else. In fact, there was a customer not too long ago that said, Brian, you know, I've got a budget. I want to spend about 20 grand in my backyard. Don't go over 20 grand. You know, I know you can build me an incredible pond for 20 grand, but do not go over 20 grand.
And what'd you end up selling it to her for?
I sold it for 9 because it was so important for me to know that it was going to be done correct and finished.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to come back to her and say, okay, here's a $20,000 pond, but you're going to need an extra 10 grand to do landscaping. You're going to need another 8 grand to do a patio, and she'd be furious with us. I'd rather do something neat, really intimate in a smaller setting, and then let her put all the bells and whistles on it. What was fascinating about it is how much she appreciated with us. There was other people bidding on the project. She went with us because she just felt like she was going with an honest company.
Yeah, right.
I bet you 9 out of 10 contractors hearing somebody has a $20,000 budget for the water feature portion would have designed a $20,000 water.
Would have designed a 25.
25.
Yeah. Hey!